Chapter 24 of Devotional Hours with the Bible, Volume 1, by J.R. Miller. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Marianne. Chapter 24. Israel oppressed in Egypt. Read Exodus chapter 1. After the funeral of Jacob, Joseph and his brothers returned to Egypt. Why did they not stay in Canaan? Was not Canaan the land of promise? Why was it that this chosen family were led off to Egypt, where ultimately they had to meet such experiences of trial and suffering? When we read on and learn of the hard lot of the Israelites in Egypt, their cruel bondage, does it not seem to us that it would have been better if they had not returned after the funeral of Jacob? But when we think of the matter more closely, we learn that the period of their stay in Egypt was not a mistake, but part of God's wise plan for their training of his people. For one thing, Canaan was full of fierce tribes who would not have allowed any strange people to live and grow up amongst them. The sons of Jacob and their families would have been blotted from the earth. In the providence of God, therefore, they were led into Egypt, where they could grow up into a great people, protected by the king through the influence of Joseph. Then, in due time, when they were great in numbers, they came back to Canaan and conquered the land for themselves, driving out the people that had held the country. Another reason for the removal to Egypt was that if they had remained in Canaan, it would have been impossible for them to be kept separate from the nations about them. Yet this was essential. They were not to mix with any other peoples. The exclusiveness of the Egyptians was such that it was impossible for them to mingle in intermarriage or even in social relations. A still further reason for the transfer to Egypt was that Canaan was a wild country, rude and uncultured. It was necessary that the people of God should be educated, that they might be the teachers of the world, which afterwards they became. Egypt was at that time the most advanced of all countries in civilization, in the arts, in education. Dwelling in Egypt, the people of Israel learned the things they needed to learn to fit them for their high position and their great mission. We take up now the story of the Israelites in Egypt. It is something that even names live for 3,500 years. It is suggestive, too, that out of the wrecks of human things in those ancient times, the names that are here presented are not those of kings, poets, philosophers, and conquerors, but those of men who were in the line of God's chosen people. The names of God's children are the only really immortal ones. They are written in the book of life. They may be names of lowly people, but they are preserved, while the names of the great of the same period have utterly perished from the earth. Long, long ages since a fern grew in a deep valley. It lived for only one summer, and then fell into the earth and perished. As it sank down into the indistinguishable mass of decaying vegetation, it murmured, "I shall be utterly forgotten. I shall have no record in this great world. My memory shall perish." But the other day a teacher of geology, going about with his class, struck off a piece of rock with his hammer, and there lay the fern, every line of its beautiful leafage and veinage traced in the stone. So it is with the names and the deeds of those who live in this world to honor God and bless their fellow men. Love never dies. Love's memory never perishes. The things you do in the name of Christ and to give comfort, cheer, and help to others cannot fade out of the universe. Their record is written in imperishable lines in the book of God, and also in the lives into which the deeds have been wrought. Thousands who live in this world obscurely and die, never thinking that they shall be remembered, will be surprised in the other world to see the record of every beautiful thing they have done, every gentle word they have spoken, every kindly touch they have put upon a human soul. The story says there were souls in Jacob's family. The Bible talks about people as souls. If you look at your concordance, you will be surprised to find how common this is. 3,000 souls were added to the church. On the ship on which St. Paul was when he was wrecked were 216 souls. We talk about people having souls, but a far better way to put it is that they are souls. We are souls and we have bodies. The children who sit in the teacher's class and look up into her face are souls. They are going by and by into God's presence and will carry there the marks and impressions which she is making upon them these days. It is well we should remember that we are souls, wearing the image of God, not worms of the dust, but instead only a little lower than God, immortal souls. We shall live forever, and what we do in this world shall never perish. It is worth while that we live every day at our best. At length Joseph died. He died, but he lives yet in the world. The story of his early days lives, and has for us all the interest and charm of a delightful romance. We read of his noble spirit, uncrushed by adversity, unembittered by injustice and wrong, keeping sweet, courageous, and loving through all the 13 years of cruel injury and wicked treatment. Joseph lived nobly and then died. We grieve when a good man dies, but why should we? If he has filled his years, few or many, with beautiful living, dying is not a disaster. Joseph lived gloriously, and now the influence of his unconquerable life is still going on. Everyone who reads his story thoughtfully gets new inspiration for beautiful and victorious living. All that Joseph wrought, all the impressions he made upon human history, yet lives. Good done in the world is imperishable. They tell us that a word spoken into the air goes quivering on and on forever. We are certain, at least, that every good word spoken and every good deed done leaves an impression on human lives which shall never die out. Every life that is pure in its purpose and strong in its strife makes all lives better, truer, and stronger. Not only did Joseph die, but the whole generation to which he belonged passed away. However long one may live, the story always closes with, "And he died." Whether beautiful or marred, whether good or bad in our life and character, we must come to the same end. There are those who do not like to think of this, and never put death into the plan of their life. Then when death comes, it finds them unready for it. Then came a change in dynasties in Egypt, and the new king did not know Joseph, and so had no remembrance of what Joseph had done. Thus it is ofttimes. Nations and communities are ungrateful. The good that men do is too often forgotten. It is not best to count too certainly on the lasting gratitude of the people whom we benefit or try to help. Many times those we serve at greatest cost heap injustice upon us or do wrong to our children. However, the possibility of ungrateful treatment should never check the outflow of our beneficence. Even if men do forget, there is one place where all our good work is kept in mind. Every tear, every sacrifice, every smallest service, Christ remembers. If we but learn to do all our work for Him, though men forget us and wrong us, we shall not fail of the final reward. The world can never rob us of the true reward of faithful service. It may withhold gratitude, but no earthly ingratitude can intercept the divine benediction. Joseph is no poorer now for the ingratitude of the Egyptians. He helped shape the history of the world. Think of the countless thousands of lives he preserved from famine. His beautiful character has been for many centuries one of the world's brightest ideals. His influence is felt wherever the Bible is read. What matters it, then, that the new king sought to blot out the name of Joseph and every memory of him? Today his is one of the most honored names in all history, and his work in the world will abide forever. The new king entered on a course which was intended to check the growth of the Hebrews. He was a wise king and feared that this growing people would by and by become a formidable power if allowed to increase in the future as it had been increasing in the past. So he set to work to counteract the alarming increase of the Hebrew people. He did not know that he was contending with the Almighty. Tyrants do not see the invisible being who stands behind the frail people they seek to destroy. They are continually resorting to cunning and policy to outreach God and carry out their own schemes. They consider it dealing wisely, but the end always proves it to be the most wretched folly. There's only one place in the Bible where God is said to laugh, and that is when the kings of the earth set themselves and the rulers take counsel together against the Almighty King. How idle it is for puny man to contend with the omnipotent Jehovah. Men go on with their diplomacy, their scheming, imagining they are carrying out their own ambitious plans to final success, but they are really only like children, trying to dam back the rising tides of the sea by their little embankments of sand. It is the worst of folly to contend with God. The only wise thing to do in any case is to fall in with God's purpose and to work in full harmony with His plan. Instead of checking the increase of the Hebrews, the effect of the king's oppressive measures was to make them grow all the more. This has been the history of all persecution. It has served only to strengthen the church and multiply it. The first great persecution of Christians soon after Pentecost, instead of exterminating the little company, only scattered the disciples abroad to carry the gospel to hundreds of new centers. It was like the effort of the wind to put out a fire. It only blows the few coals in every direction to kindle new conflagrations. The blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church. So with all trial. Grace in the heart cannot be crushed out by afflictions. It is like those roots which, once in the soil, cannot be exterminated, but which grow all the faster and thicker the more you beat and dig them and try to get them out. This truth has two bearings. It shows how utterly futile it is to contend with God, for when we oppose Him, we really only help to carry out the purpose we seek to defeat. Then it ought to bring a sense of wonderful security to the Christian who is exposed to wrongs or to trials of any kind. They never can really injure him if he cleaves to his Lord. We know that all things work together for good to them that love God. We are all in bondage naturally, and until our chains are broken and we are brought out by Christ, we are under this terrible taskmaster. Sin's bondage is hard, and it makes men's lives bitter. It grows worse every day and never easier. Unless men are delivered from it in this world, it will end in eternal bondage. But God has mercy upon souls in this cruel slavery, even when they have no mercy upon themselves. He has compassion upon those who are bound and crushed by Satan's taskmasters, and comes with deliverance. Jesus is the great deliverer. End of chapter 24.